I was going to say Maritza McGee, but Maritza Cortazar.
We're very Hollywood over here.
McGee.
He's told me this when we were really young, but it's like, I'm lucky I found you so young in life because so many people go searching for that other person and waste so much of their time. And he's like, and I'm so blessed that I found you so young in life. And I'm like, fine, I'll marry you. No, just kidding.
The thing I notice about you is that you're very much like goal oriented. One thing I also have seen is that you, besides your workouts, you usually are doing some type of devotion in the morning.
The last couple of years were a little bit of craziness in our family to where we just said, we need more of Jesus, you know? And if God brought us this amazing group of friends that involve us in this, are inviting us to church, are praying over our family, you don't get that everywhere.
This is the Sprinter Mom with Lashes On podcast.
All right, I am so excited that you are joining Sprinter Mom with Lashes On today because I would love to introduce my guest, Maritza. Oh my word, I don't know how to say her last name. Hold on.
Cortazar-Megui.
Cortazar-Megui. I was going to say Maritza McGee, but Maritza Cortazar.
We're very Hollywood over here.
McGee.
Yes.
I'm excited to introduce you to her. I have known her for many years now. We used to be neighbors. We weren't neighbors, then we were neighbors, then we weren't. She is part-time all things, and we're just going to dive in so you can learn about her family, and all the wisdom she has to share. So let's go.
Let's go.
Yay. All right, Maritza, everyone that comes and talks to me, two things. One, how do we even become to know each other? And two, tell me a little bit about your family. So let me tell you what I know.
Okay.
When I first met you, it was at probably a PTA meeting. We both of our kids attended Paseo Point Elementary, bilingual school.
Yes.
She is very bilingual. I am not at all, not even slightly. But Maritza is like the life of the room. So I think people are just naturally drawn to you. And I was like, oh, okay, who is this cool lady? And then you moved 5 doors down from me, right?
Yes.
About 5 doors down. And then
Kind of stalker.
my kids started really just going to your house unannounced and on their own. And we connected friendship-wise, faith-wise, all that, and have just continued being friends. Yes. Tell me about your family.
So
Give us a
my
little
family.
background. How many kids do you have? Your husband and you, all that.
So starting off, James is my husband. We've been married. It'll be, 24 years. I mean, we've been together for 24 years. We're high school sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16. And it's one of those, he's told me this when we were really young, but it's like, I'm lucky I found you so young in life because so many people go searching for that other person and waste so much of their time. And he's like, and I'm so blessed that I found you so young in life. And I'm like, fine, I'll marry you. No, just kidding. But here we are. We have 3 beautiful children. A little girl, 12 now. And
Not
then
very little anymore.
Not very little. And then our little heart warrior, Jackson, who is going to turn 10 this year. And then my little all-star player, Fashion Nova kid, Julian, that's just turned 8. So, but we are rocking and rolling. We're there in Levine, living life and loving God.
Awesome.
Forward.
One of the things that I love about your kids, and actually even my father-in-law who lives in Michigan most of the time and then visits here off and on, something about your family, like Ryan has always said about our kids, like no matter where we go, he's like, Sara, they kind of half look homeless. Like anytime we would attend church, go to school, whatever it was, he's like, did Brooklyn brush her hair? I'm like, no, she wouldn't let me. And I just let her go.
Yeah.
And then the boys were always like, bleh. And the McGee kids, anywhere they go, they have a fresh haircut. They have the best outfits and they're like totally put together. And so when we would see your kids, Ryan's always like, Sara, come on. Like, let's, we got to like at least brush hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But like, I mean, you guys have the chains. Like you always look to the nines.
Hey,
it's
well,
amazing.
we got to make sure we look it. We might not always be put together.
But you
gotta
sure look
you
it.
gotta look it, right? At least. So thank you for that.
You sure look it. And so my father-in-law one time saw the McGee kids, because, they would come to our houses and whenever, and we're hosting people and whatnot. And he was like, hey, because, obviously we're in foster care. And he's like, are those kids up for adoption? I'll take them. And I was like, no, you can't. They belong to Maritza and James. And he's like, those are some of the best looking kids that I've ever seen. And I'm like, I know. So yeah, you
Thanks, Tom.
Sweet, I know. It was a sweet looking family. Well, tell me about, as a mom of 3, what has your life in business looked like, career shifts? So when I met you, you were a stay-at-home mom, but you were past the stage of watching kids because your kids were in elementary. But I heard I also heard you were in banking before. Like, tell me a little bit about your career shifts before coming the stay-at-home mom. And then we can chat about the further things.
Okay. So before you actually met me, yes, I was working in banking. I had over 12 years of experience in banking, and I ended my career as a branch manager for a bank. After I had Jackson, I had to make the decision to stay home because he's a heart patient. So we made the decision and we pivoted, right? We trusted God's plan and decided that it was best for me to stay home with him and raise him since he couldn't go to daycare. Then we started babysitting. I don't know how that happened. I don't know.
Just like fell across it with friends.
Because I was not your typical, your Pinterest mom, you're cooking meals every day. I was a corporate working mom, right? The career-driven mom. But we had to make that shift. And, before I knew it, I became the Pinterest mom, the cooking dinners every night, cooking lunches, babysitting 7 kids. I didn't have a Sprinter then. I had a Sequoia. And that thing was loaded with car seats, because I was babysitting and all these kids were still in car seats, and I'd have to go pick up Ariana and one of the other kids at Paseo. So I'd have a double stroller walking through those hallways with 7 kids. I'd have people looking at me thinking like, are those all her kids? But during that time, through that pivot, I had to really rely on my faith because I didn't have patience. I didn't think that I could ever be that mom to put the kids all down at the same time for a nap. But I don't know how I did it. I managed it.
Yeah.
I did it for 3 years. And I started doing, little things at home to make an income.
Yeah.
Because James was the only one working at that time. So I started doing Herbalife. And then next thing you know, I'm hosting workouts at the park with these women.
Aww.
Which, just led into building this beautiful community in Levine by selling this. And then that's when you came about into the mix, and you're like, somebody found you on social media and they want you to influence for us. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So full circle.
We introduced you to F45.
Yes.
So then you could basically sponsor that and give videos out for that.
So it was just crazy what God puts you in line for, right? And preps you even when you're not thinking that can even ever happen. It's like, why would they want me? Like, I'm this overweight mom and I'm going to go in social media influence for a gym where these people are all buff and in best shape of their life. And I was like, all right, you guys say so,
However, you called yourself an overweight mom. You don't look like an overweight mom. And I don't think you looked like one back then, but can you share where you were at back then health-wise?
Yes.
Why were you doing Herbalife? Why did you feel uncomfortable?
So I started doing Herbalife, and I'll tell you really quick because I was diagnosed with diabetes type 2 in 2009. And for me, that was just like, what the heck? Like an awakening, right? Nobody in my family had diabetes. Nobody. So I didn't know what this was. Am I going to die? Am I going to lose a limb? Is my eyesight going to go bad? So I started this process because my mom would always tell me, Mija, you need to try Herbalife. All these ladies over here are losing weight and they're getting rid of diabetes. Your typical Hispanic mom.
Yeah.
Right? And just to get her off my back.
You tried it.
I tried it. I did the whole MLM. And from there, it just kind of set the foundation for everything because I was using this for myself, but people were seeing that I was doing it on social media and they saw me dropping weight while I was babysitting all these kids, right? And which led me to just building it as a business while I was at home. But the diabetes is what got me there. Okay. It was scary, you know. All of my pregnancies were high risk. You know, I blame myself sometimes because I think that Jackson's heart condition had something to do with my diabetes, even though it didn't. You know, it's one of those mom guilts that we feel, but you look at him now, this kid is thriving, living his best life. And so am I. Yeah. You know, we've definitely made a 360, I'd like to say.
That's amazing. So by the time we met you, well, by the time you were living near us, and it was during COVID, and we were like, hey, you got a lot of followers, like come do the social media thing. Ryan was doing F45 workouts in our house, and we invited you over because that was before like we were able to open a gym or whatnot. And we invited you over, and he hadn't known that you had been doing like home workouts and all these things for like forever. And so here we go. We start the workout, and 45 minutes later, he is dying. And you're like, all right, like that was good. Like it was a lot, but it didn't kick your butt. Yeah. And he was so shocked. And you're like, see what I can do.
I still remember the comment he made. He's all, where did Maritza go when we were doing burpees and we were doing a Zoom workout? And I was like, Ryan, I just did the burpee. I was on the floor. Did you think I stayed there? He was so surprised that I could do I mean, my burpees are a lot better now. Yeah. You know, but I remember him saying that. But look at us now, 3 years later.
I was going to say, but you're strong. Yeah. You are a strong woman. Physically, emotionally, all the things. Yeah. You are strong. That's amazing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about with your 3 kids, you now have shifted. So all of your kids are in school. So you went back to work kind of full-time, but still flexible. Tell me what you decided to end up doing that could be flexible for your family.
Well, it's completely full-time. Since I got into real estate is a business that if you're going to go into it part-time, don't do it at all. Oh. You know? So it's one of those businesses that you have to get in and be all in. You got to jump into it. Right? Because I wasn't looking to get part-time results. I wanted full-time results with it. And right now where we're at, you know, I got to say it's the best that it's been, but it was a struggle at the beginning to be able to learn how to balance work-life balance, right? Yeah. I was really about finding that. I don't really think it still exists. Yeah. You just got to do with what you can, how you can, right? But my kids and my husband are very supportive to my business, right? I know that sometimes I have to really kind of take a step back because I can spend a lot of time on my phone. I work from my phone, whether it's social media, whether it's anything. But I really had to be intentional with the time when my kids are at home, you know, because I saw that it was affecting them when they would tell me, Mom, you don't know how to relax, or you don't know how to put your phone down, or you're always working. So I ended up having to hire. You know, I hired a personal assistant, and then I hired a VA, and now I have a social media production company. But this was all because of the work that I was doing behind, you know.
To get to that point, so that you could get people to help, like to work for you ultimately, so that you could work slightly less. Yes. At least when you're at home with your kids.
At least, yeah. So that I could have that intentional time. Yeah. You know, because I saw as they were getting older, they needed more of me, right? You would think that it lessens, but no, I think it's more.
And the one thing about you, my favorite thing is that you've always been the mom that they come home to after school. Yes. And if you're not there, your husband is there. But they will literally walk home and they always know they can see your face or your husband's face. And there's been maybe a handful of times where, because even when our kids went to a different school, we would still show up at your house for the school, you know, walk home situation. And if it wasn't you two, it was your mom or your dad. And we can't really speak to each other, but we say hi and we smile and we say some small Spanish words.
Community.
But you've found a way to do that so that your kids are always walking home to, if not your faces, a family face. Yeah. And I love that. What are some things that you've done for your kids, set up for your kids so that 3 of them can get out the door successfully to start their school day, like, you know, mood wise, setting the tone wise? Like, what are some things that you've set up for your family so it works that you can get out the door fast and don't have meltdowns, or that you get all your homework done, or that you practice whatever it may need to be to practice. Like 3 kids is a lot to juggle.
So one of the things that I definitely adjusted is I wasn't a morning person as far as my workouts, early morning, right? So now 4:45, my alarm is going off and I'm at the gym at 5:30.
Okay.
Right, to get that workout in. So when I get home, it's about, hey, we're getting, the clothes was already ironed the night before. Your homework was already in the bags.
Okay.
Now it's just like, hey, let me turn on, let's get some breakfast going. And one of the biggest things that I think our family has shifted to make sure that it's a constant thing in the morning is a morning prayer before they go to school.
Oh, I love that.
So it's always been a part of it, but I think we had lost a little bit of it,
Yeah.
through the busyness of it. But it's really important for us that before our kids walk out that door, we stand around in a circle right in front of the garage door, before we get out to the garage, and we say a prayer and we set our intentions for that day. And I think for all of us, it just does, it's like our mood enhancer in a sense, because we know that no matter what comes our way, we've put it in God's hands already that morning.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to grow up with that, with that instilled in them, because we were a very faith-based, family growing up. But that's important. So that's part of our routine every morning, and making sure that, hey, we're not going to go to school in a bad attitude. So whatever, if you woke up grumpy, let's try to shake it off.
Yeah.
It
like creates peace.
Yes.
Before getting into the classroom, which who knows then what the classroom will bring.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I love that. So you're full-time working. She actually, side note, actually has sold us a few homes.
This one right here?
She surprisingly is able to work with my husband and knows his expectations and responds to the emails fast and can handle his crazy. And I respect you for that. I applaud you for that. But you get the work done. You are hardcore.
And you know what? Hold on. That reminds me. 1 second, guys.
Oh, got a little surprise. Okay.
Just a little
advertisement here.
Just a little PR,
Yeah. There we go.
There we go. Now go ahead and ask me about my full-time.
So I would say Maritza is original Mommy Mafia. We were the moms of the school, of the hood, survived COVID together.
Yes, we did.
Thank goodness CCV came to Levine. We all started attending church together. We just kind of make little communities everywhere we are. My AZ homegirl, she has taken off. But I would say my favorite thing about you is that you are fearless when it comes to social media and sales. And like anywhere we would go, even if we were having coffee somewhere or whatever it may be, if you were simply talking to the girl serving you coffee or whatever it was, and she made a very small comment, you'd be like, oh, are you looking for a home? Oh, I got you, girl. And like, you literally don't mind just saying, hey, do you have a realtor? Oh, okay. Like, oh, are you looking for this? Did you hear about rates? Like, you're a saleswoman. Ultimately, you're a saleswoman, but you do it very naturally. And I think that's how you've built up. And on social media, if you guys follow, you have to follow her, my AZ homegirl.
That's right.
On Instagram, because her reels are hysterical and you are unashamed and just put it out there.
Yeah.
And you're actually very honest and open even about like life things and health things that you go through too. How has social media helped your full-time business or enhanced, I guess, what you do?
You know what? Social media has been the gateway to everything that I've done, whether it was Herbalife, because that's where they showed me the platform, right? They showed me the foundation for all of this. And I always have to say that I give it credit because I didn't know how to run a business. And I still don't know how to fully run a business, but the foundations that I've learned from there, the daily method of operations and doing everything and how to actually sell yourself on social media were just game changer. And that was maybe 10 years ago that I started doing it.
Wow.
I got so much grief from my family. Stop posting all of our personal stuff. Stop posting yourself. Nobody wants to see your workouts. Nobody wants to see your before and afters. But yet, I've never had to pay for a client lead. I've never had to sell myself short on something because I've always tried to be very authentic and transparent, right? With my followers, with anybody that reaches out to me, I try to make sure that they have a connection with me.
Yeah.
And that I'm the same outside of social media that I am in person.
Yeah.
So when they actually meet me, they're like, Maritza, you're just as fun as you are like, on social media, which is really important to me because I don't want you to get some wrong interpretation or this other vision of me that doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
Right. So this has definitely helped launch my career.
Yeah.
Because it's always been helpful to put myself out there because if I was ever scared, there was always good comments. I've never had the bad comments. I've never had the tearing down, which I've been very blessed on this platform to not ever have that, the negativity behind it, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And they experience that. And it could be very detrimental mentally. It could be everything, but I've been very fortunate with this thus far.
Yeah. So one of the things though that changed in your business this past year was that you added your husband to the mix.
Oh, yes.
And you two now are basically business partners.
Yeah.
How has that helped your relationship? Or how has that been good and been bad? What are some challenges that you faced with that? But ultimately, overall, I know that it's good.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you found you had to adjust, but also how has it impacted you guys?
Our biggest adjustment coming in was kind of shifting and finding out what our role is going to be.
Okay.
So defining our roles at the beginning was huge because, I knew what I was doing. But what was I going to have him do? We knew, fine, get your license. Okay, great. We'll figure it out. But then it was just like, shit, we really do need to figure this out and get it down. If not, we're just going to be sitting here twiddling our thumbs and I can't work like that.
Yeah.
Right. So we really just honed in on using his strengths, and he's very analytical, very back end stuff, very numbers driven, to where I'm in front of the light.
Give me the microphone.
Put me in front of the camera. I love talking to people.
Yeah.
So it was easy that I would continue being the face of my business, right? Because he wanted to even change the name.
Oh.
And he's all, should we be my AZ Home team? Am I going to be your AZ Home boy? Where's I was like, we are not changing this. Do you know how hard I worked to build this brand up?
Yes.
We are not changing this. This has become a household name. We're not changing it. But it was cute because you're absolutely right. We can't change it. You've done so much work. So let's continue building off of that. He's like, I want to continue helping you build our family business and go that route.
Yeah. Don't restart the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of, did a lot of praying about it. And I'm not going to lie, at first there was a little bit we've been together so long, but we've never worked together.
Wait, 24 years and you've never worked together?
Never worked together.
Wow.
So for us, I was just like, shit. I was change. How is this going to look like for our marriage? Are we able? One of the things that we did say, though, when we got into it is that we cannot let affect an argument that happens at the office, right? In our home office, affect us outside. We have to leave it there.
Yeah.
Right? Luckily, the arguments have not been about anything crazy. They've been like, don't post that right now, or we need to get, this listing done. It's just silly stuff, but it's gotten to the point where I enjoy it. We were just talking about it the other day. We work out together. Aww. We come home, we feed the kids, we get the kids out for school together. And then we go into my office, which is now he brings his little desk and he sets up in there. And that is our workspace, right? He's working on his things, sending out my mailers, making sure we're connecting with our clients through email or text or whatever it is. But we have our roles defined. And I think a lot of the struggle at the beginning came from not knowing what to give him, you know, and I don't know, I'm not a really good delegator.
Okay.
So I've learned to delegate and trust. Not that I don't think he can get it done, but it wouldn't be with the same touch as Maritza would do it. But I've learned to be okay.
Okay,
with that.
I was going to say.
Yes.
It's almost like letting them dress the kids. It's like, it wouldn't be what I would do, but they still did it.
Yeah.
And it gets done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think one of the transactions had to do with Ryan, you know, and that's when I was like, you know, no, you're going to learn. You're going to learn. You know, and just kind of overseeing that and giving him that space to grow and learn from it. I think it was the eye opener for us. It was the shift.
I think it's really interesting, though, that your dynamic looks different. Like, usually it's the guy kind of leading the business, and then the wife will come in and be secretarial, or, you know what I mean? Do like the odds and ends, or I like to go in and organize office. I'm like, but was that like, was it a, like, for your husband to say, you're killing it, let me come and support you? That's pretty humbling.
Yeah.
And if he was a really prideful man, it probably would not have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's a huge deal, because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah.
How have you, like, clearly you're supporting him and saying like, yeah, you got this, do that part.
Yeah.
Do you now kind of trust and respect that he's handling it, and then you don't step on his toes? Or are there times where you still do kind of like peeking?
You know what? I've had to trust but verify, right?
Okay.
There's always a thing. And granted, just because I'm a control freak, right? But I'm so busy now, you know, sitting now on 2 different boards. This is the biggest year that I'm going to have this far in real estate. You know, I have huge plans. We have huge plans for our business. And I just have to let go and know that he's doing the right things, because at the end of the day, this is for our family.
Yeah.
Right. And the biggest thing for me, we did talk about that, you know, how would he feel stepping into a role where I'm the one, like the face, this is my business and you're coming in. And, you know, he's all like, babe, I don't feel any which way, because I look at you and this is a business for our family.
Yeah.
So there's no it's a we thing, right? So he's good at numbers. He's shy. I mean, you know him. I mean, you could sit there and talk to him and he'll have a great conversation, but he'd rather be doing analytical stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's just him.
Yeah.
So it worked out perfect that he wanted to do the boring things that I have no time or space to do.
Yeah.
You know?
So besides being full-time working mom, intentional mom as well, when your kids get home, what are some ways that you take care of yourself? Now, Maritza is also one of my lash gals. We forever ago started lashing out of my house because I was like, hey, I got a girl. She comes to my home, like whatever. And we were always on this like lash cycle. Yeah. And then our girl moved out of state. And then we found a new girl. Shout out Daniela. Yay! And Maritza found her. And so now we literally all attend the same lash girl again. But other than your lash time, what are some ways that you do self-care to take care of yourself because of momming and working and all of those other things?
Recently, I just bought tickets to go see Justin Timberlake with my girl. So that's one way I take care of myself. But you know what?
Outings.
Yeah. For me, it's either an outing with girlfriends, you know, but it's really hard. It is hard because you have that mom guilt, right? When you step out. So for me, it's getting my nails done. When I go to my hair appointments, you know, it's getting the weave done. You know, girl, it takes time. I think that's pretty much it. I used to be able to do massages, but now with lashes, you can't do that. You're going to mess up the lashes, you know.
Don't put me in a hot tub or a sauna. Like, stay away.
But I mean, I'm still learning to take that time for myself. I still can't say that I have fully mastered the whole downtime, you know, and knowing the self-care, but I try as best as I can. But a lot of my self-care, I'm going to tell you, is the gym for me has become my self-care. So 5 days a week, getting my workout in and just making sure that I keep that top of mind, because I work so hard on everything else that I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself physically too.
Yeah,
though, you know,
that's fair. But, and I would say the type 2 diabetes, like because of your health and taking care of yourself, has that subsided or is that under control? Like
no more medication.
Oh, wow.
I've lost
huge.
over 100 pounds.
That's huge.
You know, I'm living my best life right now, wearing things that I've never worn, going into stores that I wouldn't imagine, and being able to be like, you're coming home with me.
Yeah.
And you're coming home with me. Now I'm just working to sell houses to buy outfits, you know, but I love it. I was all like,
exciting.
I just said, you know, I got to sell more houses to keep up with this lifestyle because I love being able to do that. Like this new body, this version of Maritza has never lived this life. So I am living it and embracing it fully.
So you, sorry to say your age, you just turned 40 in December.
I did.
How would you compare, if you could talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell yourself? Like to treat yourself better in your 20s or to like have a vision or a picture for your future? Like what would you tell yourself as a 20-year-old now that you're 40 and like really in your best, the best place you've been in?
What would I tell myself? Gosh, you know what, Sarah? I'd probably start crying and tell myself, girl, we did it. We did it. Because, you know, there was no real roadmap to getting to this, right? We don't ever know what it's going to look like, but we've done so much and we're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, we did it, girl. We did it. We fought the fights that nobody saw that you were fighting.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Yeah. And here you are.
And here I am.
Living your best life.
Cat with the lashes.
Don't tear. One of the things that I love about you, and that was actually a reason like that didn't work out for us at the school that we were at, but you are Spanish speaking, like fluently, you and your husband.
Yes.
I'm jealous. One, you can support your kids because they have come to know the language and do it at school and all that. We couldn't support it at home, clearly. But how have you noticed that being able to speak Spanish and English, how has that helped you business-wise and in various situations throughout the community?
You know,
do you think it does help you?
It definitely does because you know what? There's always clients that I have that will call me, that'll reach out to me and say, hey, my mom wants to buy a house, you know, but she doesn't speak, you know, English. No te preocupes, I got you. You know, like it's one of those things. Or I have clients that I can tell are having a hard time with their English. And I just kind of like right now, we just had breakfast, you know, and our waiter, you know, when we got there,
fully Spanish
speaker. And it's just that comfort level, you know, you kind of just, they put their guard down and they feel like, oh, these are my people, you know. I always want to make sure that my kids don't forget where we come from. So I always make sure that, hey, you speak Spanish. Even when we go to Rocky Point or we go anywhere, hey, use your Spanish. Don't lose it. You know, so many of us, if we don't practice it, we're going to lose it, you know, and that's good. I need them to continue talking to my parents. You know, but in business, it has helped me out because I've been able to interpret for clients. You know, it opens me up to so many more clienteles, different markets, right?
Absolutely.
Where others have a disadvantage. So I definitely love that I'm fluent. I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like, I think the one thing I notice about you is that you're very much like goal oriented. One thing I also have seen is that you, besides your workouts, you usually are doing some type of devotion in the morning, sitting out with your tea, enjoying the spirit and nature and all that. How do you kind of set yourself up for the year? I know we're February 2nd right now, but like, you know that each year you've grown and gotten better, whether it be physically, emotionally, in your faith, wherever it is. Like, how do you kind of sit down with James and say, like, how do we get better this next year? Like, what are some things that you put into place that allow you to either hit goals or just move forward?
You know, for us, it was big last year that we wanted to come up with the word of the year. I've done this for myself, but I never brought it into include my family.
Yeah.
Right. So last year, because I was already growing and getting pulled in a lot of different directions, I really had to figure out what that word was going to be. I really had to do like a little digging.
Yeah.
And yet last year it was intentional, to be intentional with everything. And I really, anytime I got pulled away for something, I had to ask, is this aligned with my business, with my faith, and with my family? You know, and if it wasn't, I had to cut those things out, you know, and James and I really had to zero in on that stuff too. You know, where is this taking us? Is this helping us get closer to that end goal of what we want? And, you know, speaking of the goals, I have a vision board every year, and I've got it to the point where my kids will create a vision board with the same word and put it around for us to be intentional of making sure that we're able to hit those targets.
I love that.
Because if you have nothing to follow or to aim for, you're going to fall for everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's important for me. And like you said, I'm very goal driven. When I set myself, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to give it 110% to reach that goal.
Yeah.
But for us, it started with the word.
Okay.
And growing from there to make sure that it wasn't, if it wasn't serving any of those 3 buckets, we didn't have time for it. And as hard as that was to cut things out, it made we look back and we're like, shit, look at what happened.
This saved us from this or
Yes.
this or this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to say that that's where it started, and that's what's helped me.
I love that you say you include your kids.
Yeah.
Because not only like setting goals with them, but them having like they have a say, or that they have like they're bought in to what your family plan is. And I love about your kids is that you'll always see them wearing your content, wearing your gear, the shirts, the hat, whatever it may be. But it's like, this is not just Maritza. This is the McGee's.
Yeah.
And this is a family business, and they look up to you. They look up to your husband, and they like are just, I mean, our girls went around and sold lip gloss, you know, one time, little entrepreneurs, like, but they do, they're like, I'm going to be a boss someday too.
And that's what I want to instill in them. You know, James and I are very thoughtful when it comes to that, you know, just to make sure that what we're putting out there, you know, we don't want to replicate what our parents did, right? To some degree. Granted, there was good in our parents, and there still is, but we want to make sure that we're always leveling up and doing better.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the things too in a Hispanic household, you don't always talk about everything, and you don't share the family goals, or you might not even have those. At least I didn't know that growing up, what our goals were.
But you kind of like don't
go
deep with feelings.
No, you know, I mean, we get to a surface because we have to make it kid appropriate, right? Age appropriate. But growing up, my parents didn't talk about any of that stuff, you know, no plan, no nothing, emotions. I mean, we said, we love you. My parents were very caring, loving, even to this day. But I want more for my kids. We want more for our kids. So we have to bring them in wherever and meet them where they're at, right? Obviously. But I love the fact that they are the first ones. I don't have to bribe them to wear my stuff.
Yeah.
They are the first ones to say, Mom, can I wear my shirt on Dollar Dress Down? You got it, buddy. And here's your dollar.
Share one with your
Know,
friends.
yes. Or Julian, you know, at parent teacher conferences, like his teacher will be like, just so you know, I have like 20 of your business cards. Julian gives me one every day.
Oh.
Well, he just doesn't want you to forget that his mom sells house, you know, but it's they're proud.
Yeah.
They're proud. They see the accomplishments, the accolades that come with all of this, you know, and because of the hard work and discipline, just where our family has been able to get, you know, to go. We had Disney World on our vision board, and it happened this year.
Yep.
You know, we gave that to them for Christmas, and it was one of those things that as a kid for me, my parents would have never been able to afford that. Like I tell them about my one-day trips to Disneyland, you know.
Because you can drive.
Yeah, because you could drive. And my mom would pack our lunch. There was no buying lunch there at the park. You know, it's too expensive. But we had that on our vision board.
That's amazing.
And to see that play out and actually happen, for them, they know that, hey, I got to set these goals. This is going to happen. But my mom and my dad worked so hard to get us there, so they're not bratty. We want to make sure that they understand that this is not given to you. You have to work hard.
Yeah.
You have to have that discipline, and you have to reach for those goals to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to ask you, and Mama Cortazar, sorry, with attending church, you grew up Catholic Hispanic household, correct?
Yes.
And now you're attending a non-denominational church, Christian church. What has that been like for your parents? And because I have friends also that like would try out the Christian church and go for a while, but their Hispanic parents would just, and you know, they're back, which Catholic and Christian, whatever, we love Jesus.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But how has that, how does that look different in your family now versus your family growing up? And how do your parents feel?
So now, growing up, I mean, it was the thing, Sunday morning mass, 10 a.m., and it was the whole routine of standing up, standing down, going and getting your communion. You know, it was very routine.
Yeah.
Right? There wasn't ever anything that I could walk out of there and say that gosh, that sermon really just touched my heart today.
Yeah.
It was great, but I could never, as a young kid, relate to what they were saying because I never understood it. It was never broken down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, where I attended, there was never a Sunday school for the kids to be able to go away.
Okay.
You know, you went into the big...
And you sat there and
you
listened.
sat there. And I don't know how many times my brothers got pinched because they weren't listening, you know, from dad, like, stop, you know. So it kind of was just, oh, here we go. We're going to go to mass again, you know.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to get pinched or somebody's going to cry. And the only thing I was looking forward to is, where are we going to have lunch?
Afterwards.
After church, you know. But looking at it now, you know, as we had our family, I mean, all of my kids are baptized, all of them, you know, through the Catholic Church and everything. And the adjustment was really hard. We prayed about it a lot. But after, you know, James made the commitment and said, I will go through everything through the Catholic Church because I know it means so much to you. So we got married through the Catholic Church. We went through the whole, you know, wedding counseling, marriage counseling through the Catholic Church, everything. But my family was still missing something, you know, at home. And my husband would go to church and still not feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that was tugging at our marriage. It was tugging at life at home, you know, and we just couldn't figure it out. We couldn't figure it out what it was. And for me, I've always been drawn to the worship music. Yeah. Always, always, always. You know, especially after I had kids, because I was like, this radio, I can't even turn it on if I'm going to have the kids in the car because the things that are coming out are just crazy.
I know.
You know? So I had to start listening. I listened to K-Love.
K-Love, yeah.
That's where I started. And I made, you know, the commitment of the 30 days of nothing but K-Love, you know.
I love that.
To
they
myself.
do it every year.
Yeah, every year they do it. But that's where it started. And I remember Ariana being a year old, sitting in the back. And I'm like, I'm doing this. And it was nothing but K-Love for the 30 days. And next thing you know, I was like, oh, let's do 60.
Yeah.
Let's do another month, you know. And then it just...
And it is so encouraging.
Yeah, it was. And it was so good for my soul, you know. And the last couple of years were a little bit of craziness in our family to where we just said, we need more of Jesus, you know. And if God brought us this amazing group of friends that involve us in this, are inviting us to church, are praying over our family, you don't get that everywhere. And I think I mentioned that to you at breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
When you have a special group like that prays for you and loves God the way that you do and loves your family, you don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that kind of faith and that kind of love for God. And for me, that's really special. It's needed in this world because as crazy as the world is right now, you know, you want to hang on to something and hang on to that.
Yeah.
So we transitioned to CCV. We started going. My parents were not happy with it, you know, but it made it a little easy because my little brother was going to CCV because his wife goes to CCV.
Okay.
So it was easy to kind of piggyback and say, well, George is going to CCV. How come you don't say anything to George, you know? And next thing you know, I mean, I brought my parents to service. I brought them to a service and then it was Christmas service. And my dad was still not sold on it. They're very hardcore, they serve at their church, very involved.
That's great.
In Yuma. But my dad would say, I can't wait to bring my Barbie back home, because he calls me his Barbie. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I can't wait to bring my Barbie back to church. You know? And I'm like, Dad, but I'm happy here. Like, I'm happy. Like, I feel fulfilled. Like, I feel like when I get to church and I hear this worship music, I'm able to just sit there and I start crying because I'm just able to let it go.
Yeah.
And then the fact that my kids have somewhere to go and learn about God is amazing, because then we have something to talk about at lunch.
Yeah.
And the fact that my husband is feeling that he's getting his cup filled, right? And that these sermons are actually speaking to our life, you know, and that the pastor knows us.
It's like legitimately life-changing.
Yes, it's a legit community. People that want to see you do better, that pray for you. And now, you know, looking at it now, I mean, my parents don't give me grief. I know that they would love to have us back at Catholic Church, but they respect where we're at. You know, I love the fact that our family respects it, because the rest of my family is still Catholic. Yeah. You know, we have godchildren. So it was one of those things that, how are they going to take it? You know, but we couldn't really think about the outside noise. We had to do what was best for our family. And at that moment, this was what was best. Yeah. And I mean, you guys baptized us.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell my parents that I was getting rebaptized. But at that moment, it just felt right, because our family was going through, like, we were at war. Yeah. Right? Our family with everything going on and everything. And it just felt like what we needed. Yeah. And to have you and Ryan and our small group there. Yeah. You know, even my little brother and his wife came, even her mom came, and they supported us. That's, you know,
so special. And your kids got to watch it.
And my kids got to watch it. They didn't understand at that point. And we were still kind of skeptical, like, hey, you know, if they want to get baptized, are we going to handle that? Like, we knew we needed it. James and I needed it. Yeah. And it's been a full 360 for us in our marriage. But if it wasn't for the community that we had, I don't think we would have been at this stage, you know? So it's a work in progress, but we are loving where we're at right now.
It's a work in progress. I love that you say that, because I feel like marriage. Yeah. And I mean, being with your high school sweetheart. Yeah. Raising 3 kids, it's always a work in process. Yeah. Process. Both. It's something to process.
Both. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming today and talking with me. I will always have things to talk about with Maritza, because my AZ homegirl is so cool. She is also one of my gangster rap friends. She loves to dance in cars. She loves to dance. We like having a good time. We like having a good time. Drinks or not, it doesn't matter.
We always have a good time. Look at this. This was a great time. I appreciate you inviting me to be here and just speak a little bit about mom life.
You'll have to come back and talk more. Actually, we plan to interview you and your husband and talk about working together, and Ryan and I just collaborating with you guys. It's so fun. Shout out CCB Levine. Yes. Shout out Daniela.
Lashes.
And we will talk to you next week. Thank you guys for listening in. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today for the Sprinter Mom with Lashes on podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next week.